All right, it's not much of a surprise, but we do have another driver signed for the 2026 IndyCar season. So let's talk about that and give a general update on the silly season, because I learned a few things during the IMSA weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway that I'd like to share, clear up some rumors that are going around that are not true, and maybe some other things, or at least some thought processes and some ideas of where some of the other drivers could be going this offseason, which, boy, oh boy, seats are filling up fast. It's kind of crazy, not really unexpected. I'm kind of worried now that in this 6-month offseason, we're going to have 4 months to not have anything to talk about. God, I hope that's not true, but you know what? We're going to find something to talk about. So if you would like to be here on one of the few places on the internet that'll be talking about IndyCar racing in December, leave a like on this video, subscribe, and comment. It's all free to do. It helps me out a lot, and yeah, really appreciate that. So let's talk about the silly season itself and what took place today, which is that Dennis Hauger, the Indy Next champion, signed with Dale Coyne Racing today. That's not unexpected. The other part of this announcement that's not unexpected is the fact that this now means that Dale Coyne Racing will have a technical partnership with Andretti Global. And I think there's some kind of cool stuff about this. I'll scroll down to what Dale Coyne had to say, which is, this is a great opportunity for us at DCR to bring on a talented driver and gain a strong technical partner in Andretti Global. Thanks to Dan Towers and his belief in our sport and his dedication to elevating, that's a word, Dennis to the top of the ladder. Hauger will test in the offseason at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course with Dale Coyne Racing and will make his official on-track debut at the 2026 NTT IndyCar Series opener at the Firestone Grand Prix March 1st. So some interesting stuff there. There's a test at Mid-Ohio. Typically, Dale Coyne runs at Mid-Ohio with young drivers or rookies. I'm kind of curious if anyone else will join them when they do that. But I feel like we really need to talk about what is the biggest factor in this whole signing, which, of course, Dennis Hauger himself has been so impressive in the Indy Next Series that it was kind of a foregone conclusion, really, from the midpoint of the season that he would be in the IndyCar Series in 2026. But the fact that Dale Coyne Racing is going to go into 2026 with a technical alliance with Andretti Global, I don't think we should understate that fact. One thing that Dale Coyne has definitely been lacking recently, and they've been trying to correct it. They tried to correct it this year with the re-signing of Michael Cannon to the team, has been their technical know-how. They've just been behind a little bit as a smaller team. Makes sense. And if you look at teams like AJ Foyt Racing and others who have, Meyer Shank Racing is another one, they find a big team to latch onto and their performance level goes up. So this is pretty big. And with Andretti losing the technical alliance, or pulling away the technical alliance with Meyer Shank Racing, of course, Meyer Shank went to Ganassi. There was some availability there. And so it makes a lot of sense to kind of have a junior team. It's almost a Formula One attitude with Andretti Global to do this. We've seen Andretti do this before, where they kind of stash a driver away at another team. They did that with Kyle Kirkwood at AJ Foyt Racing back in 2022. So this is not outside of the realm of strategy for Andretti, but the complication with the Foyt thing was that they couldn't really technically help Foyt because Foyt was a Chevy team, and of course Andretti remains a Honda team. This is a lot easier to pull off because both teams are aligned with the same manufacturer. So, it's heavily rumored, and I also believe it, that Romain Grosjean is going to be the second driver at Dale Coyne Racing, a return to that team for him. I asked Romain about that at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He said he was happy that his name was in the headlines, but he had nothing to say at this point, which, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm sure the announcement is coming soon. In fact, Dale claimed in Nashville that they would have both drivers announced before Halloween, and by hook or by crook, not only did he announce the first driver before Halloween, but they announced it very, very early, 7 a.m. Chicago time, which is a very early announcement for any kind of announcement, to put it out at 7 a.m. Central time. So I saw that. You couldn't sneak that past me. That was very clever, Dale Coyne Racing, but we appreciate that. So you think about the idea of kind of, and I've been lovingly calling them this, Dale Coyne Racing becoming the all Andretti rejects, where you have the technical alliance, you have Dennis Hauger, who of course we kind of expect that he's being groomed to be in the 28 car in 2027, and Romain Grosjean, who still has a relationship with Andretti Global. In fact, I saw him in the pit lane talking to Dan Towers. Make it a little easier for me to identify what's going on there, boys. But I think if that is the pairing with the technical alliance, it makes a ton of sense, and I think it'll raise the profile of their team. And I hate to constantly, define IndyCar racing by one race, but if you look at where Dale Coyne Racing has been, particularly at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, trying to qualify for the Indianapolis 500, that has been their major weakness. And so hopefully, and for Andretti too, that kind of brings the Andretti program, especially in May, back to 6 cars, essentially. That's a lot of data and potentially a lot of speed to be found. It also kind of brings Michael Cannon back into the Andretti fold, might help Will Power out a little bit. What a cool combination that is. So it's pretty interesting. I think this is going to be a good combination, and it gives Dennis Hauger an opportunity to grow and learn without the pressure of being in a factory Andretti car. The kind of sore thumb that sticks out for a lot of people on this has been that Rinus VeeKay chose to leave this team. And a lot of people have been asking the question, and I kind of agree why we're asking this question, which is, why would Rinus leave what is on paper a very, very good situation that he was having a lot of success with, a podium at Toronto, pretty regular contender in the top 10 with just the Dale Coyne equipment. Now you have this Andretti partnership where theoretically the cars and the parts are going to get better. The cars are going to get better. They will be more competitive. They'll be more competitive at the circuits that Rinus was already competitive at last year, the street courses. And the hot rumor is and has been for a long time that Rinus VeeKay is going to Juncos Hauger Racing. There was a brief time where it looked like he was being tied to Foyt. That was reported by Marshall Pruitt, and now Marshall has retracted that. So we'll talk about AJ Foyt here in a second, but it sounds like Rinus to Juncos, most likely replacing Connor Daly. I've heard a couple of different things about Connor and some options that he might or might not have for next year, including those at Juncos Hauger Racing. But it seems like it's a race between Connor and Rinus for that seat at Juncos. And if Rinus does indeed win that race, the question becomes then, did Rinus take either a sidestep from Dale Coyne Racing to go to Juncos, or did he take a step back? I don't think he took a step back at the Indianapolis 500. I think that from the perspective of, at the very least, qualifying for the race and being guaranteed that you can qualify for the race, I think you want a bow tie on your car. The Chevrolet engine has a little bit more horsepower, a little bit more top-end grunt, and especially during qualifications, that's what you need to get into the show. That's been proven quite a bit in recent years at the 500. In fact, I can't even remember the last time a Chevrolet-powered car was in the last row shootout. So from that perspective, Rinus is looking good. The bulk of the rest of the season, we'll see. Connor had the Juncos car up at the front on some of the ovals. But on the road and street courses, there was that one kind of glimmer of hope that Stingray had at Long Beach. But outside of that, the cars really haven't looked all that competitive on those type of circuits. So I don't know. Does Rinus know something that we don't? Because it almost seems like maybe Rinus shouldn't have left Coyne. And I'm saying that sitting in an office chair in September. But if Romain Grosjean goes out and just has a career resurgence driving for this team and this technical alliance, something to think about. Let's talk about that Foyt seat, because without the conclusion that Rinus is the second driver at Foyt joining Santino Ferrucci, you start to ask yourself, well, who could it be? Miles Rowe is off the board. Miles is returning to Force Indy along with Able Motorsports in Indy Next for a full Indy Next season. So theoretically, Penske's not moving him up into that seat. And if you look at the rest of the board, I guess Linus Lundqvist's name has been mentioned a couple of times. If he's got a budget, I could see that. Quite frankly, I think the most likely, if I'm just sitting here right now, and this is purely a guess based on the evidence that we have and the things that we know about, who's still available and who has budget and what their objectives are, Jacob Abel in the 4-car makes a hell of a lot of sense, especially considering the Force Indy partnership at Abel Motorsports. I don't know. I wouldn't know what the intricacies of that would be, but if the idea is to try to keep the Penske partnership alive at Foyt without having a David Malukas there, and a direct Penske connection, at least having the idea that Foyt is available and connected to Abel Motorsports, which is connected to Force Indy, which is connected to Miles Rowe, you could keep that going for a year and have that seat available for Miles if and when he's ready in 2027. And we still don't know exactly what's going to happen with Santino Ferrucci either. So I think that's a possibility. And a lot of people also are going to talk about Prema. When I know what's happening with Prema, when anyone knows what's happening with Prema, I will let you know. There's all sorts of rumors about what's going to happen with Prema, but there's no facts right now. The only fact that I have about Prema is apparently it's still business as usual there right now. So until anything has changed at Prema, I suppose we have to assume that they're going to be back next year with Robert Schwartzman and Callum Ilott, their 2 contracted drivers through 2026. But again, anything could change. It's a long off season. And then finally, a seat that there seems to be some question mark about whether it's available or whether it's not. Marshall Pruitt had an article, a report out at the midpoint of last week that made a suggestion that the number 30 charter, which is currently driven by Devlin DeFrancesco and of course owned by Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, is up for sale. I don't have it 100% confirmed, but from what I heard at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend, I would believe that at least the charter is being shopped around for a buyer. The one thing I also do know factually is that there is a rumor going around that Devlin has a buyout, or sorry, not a buyout option, but an option in his contract that includes a performance clause. Got a pretty direct answer on that one when I asked about it, which is no, there is no performance clause with Devlin. Now, if the charter's sold and who it's sold to, if it's sold, I wonder what that means contractually for Devlin DeFrancesco. I wonder if Rahal would benefit from going back to a 2-car operation. I also wonder what teams would be interested in buying a charter. I could see like a Meyer Shank would make some sense. That's the one off the top of my head. I mean, if you're thinking about it as well, you could see if the Abels would want to do their own thing, maybe separate from Foyt, or maybe add to Foyt. I could see that. Would Juncos be interested in a charter, a 3rd charter, to maybe make it easier for Connor Daly to put together a program and also sign Rinus and also keep Stingray? There's a thought there. Obviously, Dreyer and Reinbold has mentioned a couple of times that they would be interested in purchasing a charter if one became available. And that would potentially elevate them out of Indy 500 only. Are they ready or prepared to be able to do that? Again, who knows? But if the 30 charter is sold, could be very interesting because whoever sells that first charter is going to set the market value of what the charters are. And then things get very interesting from a charter system perspective. So a lot of interesting things still to come in the IndyCar offseason. What do you guys think of Dennis Hauger going to Dale Coyne Racing with an Andretti Technical Alliance? That team potentially could be very strong next year. But again, interested in your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more motorsport content, and I will see you in the next video.